Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I'm Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Welcome to the Vellum on Friday, the 13th of all days. Friday the 13th. Sorry, we're a little behind today. Normally, we're at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Due to some personal things and all that, we kind of rearranged the schedule. So today it is obviously 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. So, hello, everyone. And Teepaw, how are you doing today?
Well, well.
Where's Luke? Where's Luke?
Yep. It's Simba the kitty. He's like, "What are you doing to me?" It's like you jumped up here. Yeah, hi. I'm was doing some kid stuff before and was doing a family visit earlier, just a little bit ago, in fact. And part of why the podcast got pushed off just a bit was because Teapot had to do some real life stuff, and so it happens. But we're here now, so hey, and
Well, we have a special guest today.
yes,
Diana Bishop.
the special guest is voice actress. Uh, Wrote a book called Gospel of the Witch, and is working on future projects. She has a sexy ass voice, and it's gonna be amazing. So, how are you doing, Diana?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good overall. Real life withstanding.
Yeah. Yeah, you got enough kids that would make real life withstanding.
Yes. But yeah, so as far as this goes, like I was reading a couple chapters out of the Gospel of the Witch, by the way, today. In fact, I was reading them last night and also today. I have noticed that your prose style is very different from a lot of writers today, a lot of young adult writers. It's elegant and it's very dancey, and you have like this narrative voice that's like it's like being third person limited, but then also it goes a bit omniscient at times, or at least it feels that way. It feels like the camera is following the character, but then like it zooms out a little bit, so it can get like that narrative voice of that message that you're trying to impart to the reader. And I like the fact that Lena is an interesting individual who's been around for centuries, and yet she's trying to like heal the world that she currently is in.
Right. She's been around for millennia. And you're right. That is her goal. That is her ambition and mission, technically, is to spread the message that, you know, people were told that they're consigned to hell. All of the werewolves and vampires all believe that this is what's going to happen to them because that's what happened to their Nephilim ancestors. But that's not necessarily the case. And there's a simple thing that no matter what belief system you're in, live in love. Live in, as for, from love, and you can't go wrong. That's the basis of the law for Christianity, but it's also the highest frequency in spirituality. It's also in every other belief system that you could possibly go to, Muslim, Hindu, it doesn't matter. Love is the message. And that's basically what she's doing is sharing that with everyone, and don't believe what people have told you. This is our own world. This is our manifestation. This is our spirit. Makes sense?
Yes, yeah. No, it does. It does. I was one of the parts I liked out of it was the part where she like shows her powers to the sisters of the monastery, and like she's like kind of going a superhero a little bit with like showing off the powers and showing off the stuff. Because before she like uses it in a way as to pacify the tribe. That it's like the one leader's like trying to like be like kill her, she's a witch, and then the other one's like, but she showed Jesus love, and so like you got like this clash of ideals there. And I like the fact that you're really introducing the fact that no matter what walk of life you're from, this lady who is apparently alive during Mary Magdalene and during Jesus time, she was gifted the ability. She's kind of like a demigod of sorts, like in my head. That's how I'm interpreting it. She's kind of like a demigod of sorts who is like immortal, but she's also a witch, and she's been gifted with the similar gift that Jesus was given, which is the gift of God and light. And I find that very fascinating.
Oh, well, I did too. The reason why you see the perspective as you see it is because the whole thing was like a movie playing in my head. So basically, that's how I wrote it as I was watching this movie. That's what I was seeing, that's what I was hearing, and yeah, she is, just like all the other witches. The difference between her and all of the others, that is, it's told pretty early in the story, I think. So basically, it depends. The witches have the only power that they have is to be able to control the physical universe. So what's the study of the physical universe? Physics. The more you know about physics, the more you know about anatomy, the more you are able to do with your power. It's just as simple
Yes.
as that. But most of the characters in the story don't usually like to mix with humans. Well, humans have discovered a great deal about physics and anatomy. And if they didn't choose to listen to things that humans had learned, they would not advance their abilities to do things that she has, because she did listen.
Yes, exactly. And I like the fact that you're using this story to help provide enlightenment in a time where the world is absolute chaos. Like our world is trying to adjust in a post-COVID world, and our world is trying to adjust in a time where big tech and government is trying to do a lot of oversight, but they're also, it feels like we're in a giant boiling pot of water, and like they threw in all these ingredients into it, and then they turn it, instead of to 3 or 5 to like let it start simmering up, they turned it to a freaking 11, and then just been watching the mess just cascade everywhere. And so in this story, Lena is like that image of light to try to rebalance things that were previously unbalanced, is how I'm seeing it.
Oh God, the world needs more balance right now. It is truly out of whack. I'm surprised we're not wobbling so much that you can't keep things on table surfaces. The way this things have been, but that's going to shift. It's going to shift faster than most people think. This book plus the sequel, I think, is going to, whoever reads it will hopefully get the ideas and the intent that's in them. And I always said that I didn't write this; it came to me, and so it's the message that's in it came to me to tell it, and so I think it deserved a better author, but still in all, I'm the one that got it, so I'm the one that wrote it, and the sequel is coming as well. Almost in the same capacity. It will hit me, and I will see this movie play out, and I already see the beginning because it picks almost right up after this book does. Did not even expect to have a second book, but it started coming.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's like touching the screen with its whiskers. So hang on a second.
And for those of you, you can get it on Amazon. Where else can you get it? Is it on
Barnes and Noble? You can get the ebook on Barnes and Noble and Smashwords. It can be bought there.
There we go. There we go. Definitely want to get it.
By the way, the ending of the book and the beginning of the book are like a mirrored image, and that's one of the things I like about the book. Like the way that you do the beginning, as I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the way you do the beginning and the way you do the end, it's very much like a mirrored image. And the one word of the book that I would say, it may be called Gospel of a Witch, but the main theme of the entire book is light.
To be truthful with you, I had not even clocked that myself. It just, I didn't know it was going to happen that way. But yay, that's pretty cool. It happens.
Yeah, like bookends itself. Like that's one of my favorite parts of literature, honestly. And it's one of the reasons why I write my stories the way I do is I like juxtapositions with reality versus fiction, and I also like mirrored images. I have this thing with mirroring light and darkness, or good and evil, or things like that, but then also showing the shades of gray in between. because we as a human species won't be able to relate to something unless there is a amount of gray. Because if it's just one way or the other way, then we as a species will just simply disconnect because we're too flawed to, really absorb it unless it relates to our mentality. And so I like the fact that you are introducing a form of mentality that has kind of become faded by our culture. And even like, it's interesting when I read the werewolves dialogue, by the way, are they all in the, in a southern state? Like, is that where this thing's taking place?
The hills, actually. What I pictured was the Blue Ridge Mountains. That's where the
Okay.
Wolf Mountain is in the Blue Ridge Mountains. But they start out actually somewhere in Colorado, because that's the Great Gathering. I'm telling probably more than I should, but yeah,
No, you're not. You're not revealing too much plot at all. Go ahead.
yeah, that's where they start out. They're sort of there because it's a great gathering, and that means from the entire continent of the Americas. So, we're talking about Canada, Alaska, all the wolf packs once a year on the harvest moon gather, and they have their werewolf nation meeting. And that's basically how she found out about it, and that's how she starts out the story, where Lena is. She finds out about it, and she realizes that she has an opportunity to spread this message that that they aren't consigned to hell. And by the way, she was actually guided in this message. Because she was born in Christ's company. It was her parents' work. Imagine going through life from the dawn of time, the dawn of the Nephilim, when Enoch, Noah's great grandfather, existed. Okay, that's when you were born. And you're going through time, all of this time up until the time of Jesus. That has to get dull after a while, especially given the fact that you have this ability to manipulate everything in your physical universe. So her parents got bored, essentially, and they started looking, and they come across Christ. Well, wow. Can you imagine seeing the magic that he performed? I don't care if you see Christ as a prophet or as the Redeemer or what have you. Imagine, somebody that has these great capacity to do all of these things with the physical universe, and then they come across someone that can feed 5,000 people on just 2 loaves and some fish. It's that story.
Yeah.
It's actually where they meet him. And I always say this is not a religion based book, because I don't go into Old Testament. I go to Christ as far as the words of a guide and a person that knew a great deal about light, spoke about love, spoke about spirituality. This is a master of it. And I didn't even know I was doing it, to tell you the truth, because I was still in my old belief system, which was by and large Catholic based. But anyway, I always
Yeah.
keep going back to it.
Yeah, no, I actually like that a lot because of the fact that it also provides an opportunity to show a different perspective on this whole thing. Because, like I said before, the title of the book is called Gospel of a Witch. When I first started reading it, I was like, Gospel of a Witch? What type of witch is this person? Why is it called a gospel? And then as I was reading it, I was like, wait a minute, like, she's even like talking to these werewolves about like what type of witch she is, and they are assuming that she's this evil, demented being person. And like she's like talking about God, and she's talking about Jesus and stuff. Like, oh, this is just a normal thing. This is a normal Saturday for me. And like, but like for these werewolves, they they see it a different way. And she's talking to Rolf about learning a different way of things and learning a different mentality. And I like the fact that the way you position it in the story is that God is kind of like any other god that you would introduce in like a fiction story, like whether it's Zeus or whether it's Jupiter, whether it's Cthulhu, any god. It's just the way that our culture sees God and sees all that stuff is considered a sense of sacredness and a sense of like it's hard for the human mind, especially in our current culture, to separate the word God from anger or peace, like the two different universal emotions that are like two different extremes. You either get angry when God is mentioned, or you get tranquil, or you get like calm about it because it fills me with a sense of love, which is what it's supposed to do. And I like the fact that Gospel of a Witch throws you off because it's almost like the title's a red herring, even though it's not. Like, even though it's clearly her going to this place to spread her message and to show them, enlightenment, and to show them a different way of things, and yet it's called Gospel of a Witch. And like, people would, especially if you're Christian or you're Catholic or whatever, when you think witch, you think witchcraft, you think, magic or something. And I like the fact that with this story, her powers are also handled, especially chapter 2, like they're superpowers. Like, they're handled like a superhero. And I like the fact that you did that.
Yeah, I've actually always been fascinated with
I'm just like,
and superheroes. I've always loved to watch the movies. I never read the comic books very much, but I did love to watch the movies and things like that. Bewitched was my favorite TV show when I was young. And see you too, Paul. But but you probably liked Elizabeth Montgomery, tell the truth. But okay, I thought so. But yeah, and the fact is that, I mean, it did stand to reason that part be in there because, the reader would need to understand to some capacity what witches are capable of, and so that they understand that they're not these cackling, cauldron stirring, spell casting people. That we're not talking about that kind of a witch. These are called witch because of their ability to manipulate physical matter. Vampires are called vampires because, for the most part, I allude to the past in this book. I don't actually talk about it, but there are some things that happened in the past previous to this story that I bring up in this story, which actually I think I've given myself enough material for a prequel, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But so the werewolves, they don't go after human blood. They will go after the blood of other supernatural beings because they get high off of it. That's the only reason. If they're addicted to that high, then they're going to go for it, right? And it's an addiction. That's all it is. It's an addiction. Who can? Many people can relate to that. Also, the werewolves, they are isolated. Pack animals. They don't transform on the full moon. They do transform on the full moon when they want to do a ritual, like the harvest moon. When that great gathering happens, there's going to be a transformation because it's ritualistic for them. It doesn't mean that they're going to just suddenly, need a shave because the full moon came out. That's not the case.
No.
Not with my opinion.
Can they transform or just on a full moon?
Anytime they want to, any time of the day or night. My vampires can walk in the daytime. They usually don't because typically they're up to no good. But and classically, when somebody's up to no good, they usually live at night.
Yeah,
vampires. They can be killed. They can die. They can be shot, but they can heal a lot faster. Think about this. They are descendants of the Nephilim. They have 1/4 angel blood. Doesn't that account for their abilities, their longevity? Humans, of course, thought that the vampires could always live forever because they lived for millennia. So it didn't, in their minds, of course, that they lived on and on and on. The witches, they're isolated, so typically they don't, of a human isn't going to know if a witch, had passed or whatever. The werewolves. Now, think of the lineage. A werewolf was begat because a Nephilim had sex with an animal. Animals have a shorter than human lifespan. So their lifespan isn't millennia, but it is centuries. They can live for centuries.
Wow.
So it just made sense. And that's what it was. When I read this book, I learned about the Nephilim and that you guys have heard this before, but the viewers probably haven't. In this book, it talks about, I actually think I highlighted it because there was a lot of stuff. I read this book with a highlighter because I knew it was going to be a big part of the story. And it talks about how the Nephilim, they were eating and drinking each other's blood. Each other's blood. That's what that says here. Okay, so that made me think.
Bloodletting.
Well, it made me think of vampires first, and then it makes sense that they would be doing that of each other. Why would they do that just with each other? They weren't going after human blood. Probably because they got high. Okay, the Nephilim slept with. According to this, the Nephilim slept with animals. They procreated with animals. That made me think of the werewolves. The 200 watcher angels that came down that begat the Nephilim, they were using knowledge and talents of heaven. So that made me think of witches. And so that's where this all started.
Wow. What is the Nephilim?
The Nephilim is 200 watcher angels that were watching humankind in its early stages. They were attracted to human women. They came down, they procreated with human women. That child is a Nephilim, half human, half angel. They ran amok, according to Enoch, they ran amok on this planet. And God finally heard the cries of the humans and said that he sent down angels to see to their demise. So he pitted them one against the other until they killed each other off. And their watcher angels were forced to watch. And then the watcher angels, basically that's how they built hell.
Yeah, is the Nephilims in this story, are they just like, are they like, because in the show Supernatural, the way Nephilims are treated is that they're supposed to be quote unquote more powerful than any other creature, which is why they ended up needing to be destroyed, and that's why you run into like two on Supernatural, the show. In your story, are Nephilims like of that power base level, or are they like just a typical combination of human and angel, like they can procreate and things like that?
They are certainly stronger and more powerful. I mean, if you think about the abilities that an angel would have, you're talking about the etheric melding with the natural. That's just, I mean, that's going to create more power. The Nephilim could actually do a lot of things. In my storyline, I only talk about the fact that the Nephilim are their lineage. I don't necessarily. I do at the beginning of the book have several quotes from the book of Enoch. The children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters, and the angels and children of heaven saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. That was the part I was telling you about with that. And I put in here that, just a few things from the book of Enoch that is indicative. And destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. This is from chapter 10, 15 to 16. So I basically quoted it like Bible verse from the book of Enoch. And Gabriel said to the Lord, proceed against the children of fornication and destroy the children of the watchers from amongst men. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days shall not they have. And no request that they may make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf, which is their fathers were the watcher angels. For they hope to live an eternal life, and that each one of them will have 500 years. 500 years is a long life. But yeah, so their power and ability, it is etheric mixed with natural. So you have to think they're going to be stronger. They're going to have all of these abilities that the witches have, of course, to manipulate. And they went crazy. They make me actually think of what the demigods were.
Right. Yeah.
Because that was a god, mating with a human, and that made a demigod, right? Hercules.
Yep. Like Percy Jackson, or like,
Yeah.
like Hercules. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I got a question for you. So in your sequel, are you ever going to take Lena to Vegas?
I don't know. I don't know.
It would make her busy. Like she'd be, she'd go to town and stuff. And I imagine there'd be like an entire like room in like the casino where like the Nephilims are all just kind of hanging out, or at least a few of them. And like maybe like you find out that one of them became like a not a mob boss, but like someone that's like pimping out stuff. Like I can imagine that like they are abusing their power considerably, and she's just like, what is going on here?
If we're going to talk about where she should go as far as Sin City, let's consider Washington. I think, DC.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, because it is definitely going to be more centered around humans, I think, the next story. Because, well, I'll launch down. I'm going to merge a couple of your podcasts, Paul. I'm going to take the flow into the Vellum.
Okay.
The thing is that as I've discovered spirituality and what humans are actually capable of, what we should have been all along capable of, the superhero gifts and talents that you think are so cool in fiction, they're possible. And I know that people are going to look at me as a whack job for saying that. I don't care. The fact of the matter is that our spirit has great power that we have not tapped into for, well, the millennia we've been walking around sucking on air. Is that making
That's fair? Yeah, no, it's there's a show that Chris Hemsworth actually did recently called, I think it's called Endless or something like that, or Limitless. Yeah, Limitless, in which he basically is tapping into different parts of his body and then his mind. And scientists have actually done studies, multiple different studies, that we only averagely use 10% of our brain.
Right.
And so, like, there's different parts of your brain you can tap into to do what you're talking about. Right. And to, like, do things like that. So I wouldn't call you a whack job. I would just call you someone that, is enlightened.
Well, I mean, think about it too. It's not just our brain. How little do they know of what there is a vast amount just to our DNA that they can't account for, and what do you think all of that is holding on to? Imagine all the information that's in there, and maybe that's where spirit is. We don't know. I mean, but it doesn't mean that it's not the case, so the thing is that we're going to be able, sooner rather than later, I think, we're going to be able to find out all of this stuff. And that's the thing I'm excited about and looking forward to. And I believe the next book is going to be talking about that. So it's going to be human-centered, so to speak, in that there's a discovery of what humans actually should have been capable of all along.
So is it like going to be like a thing where like Lena just shows up to some place like she did in the first book and like just like shows them how to use powers? Like that'd be pretty cool. Like she creates the X-Men and she's like the new Charles Xavier.
I couldn't say, honest to tell you the truth, I couldn't tell you because the first book I kind of knew what was going to happen. Like I knew there was going to be a big fight scene. I knew there was going to be something at the end. And, I kind of knew a little bit about the beginning, but I didn't know about some of the characters. I met characters as I went through the story. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's nice to meet you. It really was cool like that to me. Anyway, that, so there was a lot of surprises for me as I started writing this. So the next one, I'm letting spirit guide completely. I'm waiting. I'm not going to do an outline. I will meet characters and then I'm going to put a little bio where I have a cast of characters, just as I did with this one, as I meet them, because, consistency is something that needs to be remembered as you go throughout the story. However, I'm not outlining this. I'm going to see what spirit shows me. I'm going to watch the movie and do my damnedest to actually describe what I'm seeing and hearing to the reader. But I saw this as a movie.
I dig it. I dig it a lot. I want to talk to you, but you said that you were going to be working on voice acting as far as like your endeavors, because you were working with your, like, you were taking care of your mom a lot, and we definitely appreciate you for doing that. And I love the fact you did that myself personally, just because personal reasons. But like, didn't know her, don't know you in person, but I still love that personally because my own mom. And I, when someone says, "Oh, I'm taking care of my mom," I'm like, "Oh, I know what that's like." So it's like I can appreciate that in a deeply personal level. So, but like outside of that, like you said, you were going to be doing voice acting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, a friend of mine that was in advertising is he told me how I can write a commercial, which is handy. I'm a writer, right? I can write a commercial for almost anything I have around the house. And then I'm going to put it up on, he's got a list of websites that he used to go to in advertising to find voice actors to do voiceover work for commercials or what have you. There is also going to be things where I'll be like friends' books like yours and Paul's. You pick an excerpt for me to read on YouTube, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to do my best to wear clothing, do makeup, do hair, or whatever I can to give the watcher a feel of the book that I'm reading or the part that I'm reading. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you've written something fantasy, well, then I'm going to dress in fantasy clothing. Paul's book, I would most likely wear a business suit for. It just seems to me to make sense that way. It's that kind of thing. If it takes place on a farm, well, I have floral dresses. It's not a problem either. So this is what I was going to do, was do that and read excerpts. In the description of each one of these posts, I'll put the link to where it can be purchased, but that's going to help hopefully get you sales. And it'll get my voice out there to people too. So it'll help me in that capacity. And if I develop the channel well enough, by God, I could get paid from YouTube. It happens.
Well, hopefully I can have the
Nice.
Rainbow Prophecy out in time for all of this, and then you could read an excerpt as Iris.
Abs- I have to
She
remember your
reads excerpt
characters.
as an expert.
I'm going through cast list here, trying to remember your characters. But yeah, I could. Oh, yeah, I know. I remember her now. Oh, okay. Well, it's okay. I had those clothes. I
All right.
I'm just like, I think it's funny how like the word business suit is synonymous with Paul.
Well, I think about his first book. Yeah, of course, it's nonfiction and very political, and it requires the authority of a business suit. And that when you go to an interview, I used to tell people I used to dress people for their interview when I worked in clothing retail, so I knew how to okay, you're going to come across as this if you go to this job, and you don't wear flip flops and and a tracksuit, to an interview as to work in an office, do you? I mean, you could possibly to work at Walmart, though. It's possible. I don't know, but
I've
The-
I
I've
used to
done
dress
I've
people.
done all of the above at different places.
and that really, and that blows me away. Excuse me. Uh, and I'm going a little tangent here and all that on the whole dressing the part.
Go ahead.
Um, when I was young, you always dressed up really, really nice to go in for an interview, no matter where it was.
Right.
And I remember um, when I applied at McDonald's, okay, my dad went out and helped me find a nice polo and sport jacket to put on and a pair of dress pants. I applied to work at McDonald's, not in a suit, but close enough
Hmm.
because that's how I was taught to dress. You dress, to basically whatever the job is. That's what you're going to work as, and that's how you dress for it. And in the casino industry, um, if you were going in and applying for a supervisory position, you came in a suit. If you were applying for like a dealer's job, you came in wearing what we call black and whites, black pants and a white dress shirt, because there you go. You do an audition on a game and you are right there, you know? So when I started interviewing people for jobs and they would come in sweatpants and stuff like that, it took a long time for me to be like, okay, this is how they do it now. I guess this has become acceptable. And it was really hard for me to hire somebody wearing sweatpants and flip flops. You know, it's like you're not dressing like you want to work.
Right.
So
I
that,
still feel the same way. I still feel that way.
yeah,
I can't shake that off because, to me, if you're going in for a job, show me you care, at least about in your own appearance, show
yes,
me that it matters to you. And, one of the things that I used to say is don't dress for the job that you're applying for, dress for the job that the interviewer has, the boss, dress
yes,
for their job,
yes.
because,
I
and
I,
I
I wore
promise
a
you,
three piece. Go ahead.
oh,
Go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
no, no.
I, I was gonna say I dressed up as a three-piece business suit when I went to go interview for Verizon. You know, the company I was told you guys I was working for a while. They're in the business sector, so of course in my brain when I was interviewing, I was like, I gotta dress all businessy like. And my buddy was just like, dude, all you have to do is just show up in a long sleeve button-up shirt and a pair of slacks, and you're good. I'm like an overachiever, so I heard that and I'm like, I'm gonna step it up, and so I dressed in a monkey suit with a tie and everything.
There you go. See, I mean, the dress for the don't dress for the job that you're applying for. Dress for the job, the boss of that
Yes.
place. Because they're not looking at somebody. Think about what an employer. How did we get off on this topic? Anyway, think about what an employer is looking for. Because I used to actually have to interview people as well. Think about an employer is looking for someone that they're going to. I mean, they're going to have to invest time in training, right? They're going to have to. Well, they want somebody, I should think, they want somebody that once they do invest that time, that person's going to be committed and actually trying to move up. It looks good for any employer of any place to actually hire people that have promoted and promoted and promoted past them, because that just means that you know how to find good people.
I'm
I have
incorporating this into a book. I'm incorporating this into a book. I'm going to have one of my characters just so upset that somebody came in sweatpants and flip flops.
I'm the guy with the sweatpants and flip flops. Just kidding.
And, it's no judgment on anybody who has done that. I should say that, but I mean, it just because not everybody can come across those clothes, but they can be found. I mean,
Yes.
I've gone shopping in resale shops. I mean, I don't always go to, stores and things like that. I will go to a resale shop sometimes and I will find things that will work. And it just depends on how you wear it. That's all it is.
my
It's kind
my
of it's,
one my one boss told me in a meeting, he's like, always dress for the job you want, not the job you have, right? So
right.
me being the smart ass that I am, the next day at work, because we went to costume store and 'cause my wife was getting stuff with kids. And so I, being the smart ass I am, went and bought a certain outfit for $20. It was just 20. I was lucky, it was on discount. Went to work, got dressed up in it and dressed up, walked in, and everyone's like, "Hey, it's Batman!"
Oh God. I thought you were going to go to dress as Merlin. Truly, I thought that's what you were going to do. I don't know why, but
I dressed up as Batman for work, and nobody, they were like, "We're never gonna forget this." And I'm like, "Hey, at least I didn't dress up like an inflatable dinosaur."
that's true. That's
I was going
true.
to say the other place that I noticed a change in how people dress is that over the period of a decade, when I would go to church, when people used to dress in suits and their best Sunday clothing to go to church on Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And I started to notice over the years how people started dressing down going to church. And it's like this whole dressing down thing has been going on for the last, 40 years. And I've seen it not only in the workplace, but also when I was at the point in my life when I was religious, saw it in the church setting also, so,
Mhm.
and now just, my God, walk through a Walmart sometime. Have you ever seen the videos, Walmart people, the
Oh
people
God,
at
yes.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Walmart? Oh, I could write a book on that, damn it.
So why do they have boobs on their back? No, that's just the way that their back forms.
Don't body shame. No, but not that you would. But yeah, no, you're right though. It's just you're right. I've gone I've gone to Walmart in sweats, but I'm not going to go to Walmart in a pair of Daisy Dukes that are 14 sizes too small.
Right.
And that's the difference. That's the thing that we're talking about, you know. But
I
God,
think
I've seen some weird things on YouTube.
I think that's also part of the problem that we have today. I I I associate it with self-esteem. And you know, when you're going out in public, there, and again, I'm not saying that people have to dress up to go out in public. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a aspect of self-respect of going out on, how you feel for the day and stuff like that, and how you want to be seen or not seen,
Mhm.
and I think that we've come to an era where the self-respect and the self-esteem has started to leave in way too many ways. And you can also see it in the personalities of people, how they interact with each other. So it's just, I think it all comes together. And again, Shadow Fox would love this, because this would be just a materialism of the universe, a manifestation of sorts, that she would talk about. So it's just,
Diana did say she was
I'm
merging
about to
things.
channel her. I'm about to
So
channel her. Yes, the fact
my
that
I have
this is one of the things that we're talking about that we've lost. This is one of the things we're talking about that has been lost. And as much as we've lost the capacity to do all of the things that we should have been able to do all along, the things that we would call miracles or the things that we would call supernatural, that is something that innately we can do. Think about a child is born. You take that child and you put it in the arms of someone that, and then they start crying real fast. Well, that child has picked up on that energy of that person, and that's a pretty discordant person. That child's not going to be happy. They'll start crying and all of this kind of stuff. Then you take the child back, and instantly they're calmed by somebody else who is more compassionate or loving. That's the case. These are innate things that we've been able to do. We've taught ourselves out of self esteem, self love. Those are things that we've also taught ourselves out of. Society is not out necessarily these days to bolster the person as much as it should be. We are amazing creatures, multifaceted, amazing beings that we are. And people don't recognize it. And each and every one of us is complete, 100% complete. Imagine what that means. Look in the mirror and say, "You are complete." And then remember and think about, what does that mean?
yeah,
100%. You are complete as you are, and you're divine. You're also divine. Look up the definitions, then look in the mirror and fathom it.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just gonna like take a clip of Diana saying all that, and I'm just gonna like replay it over and over again.
That's the thing that people need to gather and then live in love. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got three key things right there: your completeness, your divinity, and live in love. Because everything else is going to fall in place once you do live in love. We
Yep.
had this conversation when I was on the flow. We were talking about love becoming our currency. Could you
Hmm.
imagine a world where that's the case?
Yeah.
All economies are based on love. Who'd be the rich people then?
The people that love the most.
Interesting. You invert expectation.
Exactly.
And see, and that would be the true definition of how true communism would work.
I don't. I'm not going to. I wouldn't look at the political aspects of it, but I mean, because all of that would go away. You know, the spirit of what communism talks about is the equality of everyone and all of this sort of stuff. Just drop every single label of it and just call it love. If we love and if we live in love, then everybody's going to be looked out for.
Exactly.
And everybody's going to be inspired also to contribute as well.
Yes.
Nobody's going to want to not try to contribute. That's a capacity of love as well.
Yes. And when you go back to a lot of the old world of, back before we had commodities and, trade, it was all about living together and surviving. That's how we lived. We lived in love for one another because that's what made us strong. That's what made our group strong. That's what made our survival strong. And now everything's become a commodity and all that. And it's no longer about the love. It's about the money. I guess you could say it's about the love for money that you have and not the love for human beings, nature, and things that live and breathe, So there's where the problem comes in. We have diverted our love for humanitarian reasons to monetary reasons. And now that our love is donated to monetary reasons, we forgot about the living and the breathing.
Well, imagine what people in today's society are impressed with. They're impressed with people who have power, people who have great wealth, and all of this kind of stuff. That's impressive to folks, right? But they don't understand. They're looking at this very, very physical, tangible thing that's going to turn to dust. It's just going to turn to dust. Each and every one of us will eventually go back to that. What lives on past it? That's where our power is. That's where every bit of it is. Going on past that, the energy that is. And we are powerful, but there's a lot of people who haven't recognized it. Most people have not recognized it, but it's going to come to pass that everyone will.
Yes.
I'm just going to say right now that, the CEO of Twitter, Elon, and any person out there who's insanely wealthy and rich, they would not impress me. No matter how many fancy cars they have, no matter how many technology stuff they have, they wouldn't even impress me. If I ended up running into some olive skinned dude with long dark hair and he made a fish appear out of nowhere, or if he walked on water or turned water to wine, that would be impressive. I'd be like, oh my god, and then he'd be like, I have. I'd just be going, all right, what's up?
It's kind of funny and all that. When I got into the casino industry, I've met a lot of famous people. Okay. And initially, I found that impressive. I'm meeting a star. Okay.
Oh yeah. Idol worship. Go ahead.
Okay. And over the years, I came to recognize that, because first of all, the majority of them are assholes because they have this eliteness about them that they think that they're above everybody else. So there's the first turnoff about these people. When you would meet someone that was actually kind and nice and generous, that's what you liked about them. Okay. Now I want you to really hear this out. So over the years, I finally realized, oh my God, they're humans just like us. They're no different. Everybody might know who they are because, hey, they've seen them on TV. They've seen them at a concert, but that's all they have is they have recognition. It's all they have over me, recognition. Granted, they might make a little more money than me, but that doesn't make them superior to me. And it's with that recognition that I was no longer fascinated with people that had notoriety. I was more fascinated with people that showed acts of kindness, you know,
Hmm.
and I think that when if people were to latch onto that as I did, then you become less selfish and more selfless.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to then become more human and less robotic, less
A
mach-
sleepwalking.
yes, okay. And I think that this is again one of the biggest problems with our world is that again nobody cares about the human aspect. They care about the I got to have my fame. I got to have my fortune. I got to have my face known. I mean, look at all these social media apps that are out there. I mean, look at us right now. I mean, we're out here on a social media platform. All right. I don't care if I ever get huge or not. I don't care if I ever get world famous or not. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to give everybody a voice.
I'm hanging
Okay.
out with my friends. That's what I'm doing. I'm hanging out with my friends.
Well, about giving people a voice on the things that they care about. Diana has written an awesome book. I'm not writing this because I want or running this because I want Diana to make a lot of money. I mean, granted, that would be nice, but that's not why I'm here. I want people to read what Diana has written because it's a piece of art. I want people
It's a
to
very
enjoy
elegant piece of
that,
art.
you know?
Oh,
So, in people enjoying that, I'm spreading something to people that goes beyond fame and fortune. I'm helping to spread the love because that's what your book teaches.
right. That's what this is about. It's about love. Whenever somebody is walking around in this world and they're living discordant lives, as the nemesis to Lena in this story does, they're power hungry. Nemesis again. The thing is that all they have to do is find what is love. What am I doing? Love is, first of all, selfless,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, because when you truly love someone, you're going to actually put their needs and all of their, ahead of your own. And you would expect, of course, that they're going to reciprocate. Now imagine, but you're not looking for that. You're not looking for reciprocation because you love them so much, you're going to do it anyway, right? Now
Yeah.
imagine having that capacity for someone that you love so much, your child, your parent, your spouse, and spread it across the entire world
Yeah.
to nature, to animals, that capacity to love, spread it everywhere. And that's the world. That's the dream. That's the dream of this world. That's what this world should be. And that's what this world could be. Just imagine it. And
Oh,
that's all we have to do is imagine it, and we'll make it so. Keep imagining it and
mm-hmm.
push through, and we'll make it so. Yes, there will be some discordant people along the way, but quite frankly, whatever power they have, whatever great wealth they have, they're going to lose quickly if the majority of the people get on the program of realizing that love is the be all end all. And
Yep.
when we get into that world, their great wealth, all of those bills with dead presidents on them, and all of those coins, and whatever power they may have had before will go away.
Yep.
They won't be voted back in office. They won't. They will lose whatever income off of their businesses that they've had because people are like, I'm not supporting that. I've
Yes.
seen what kind of person you are. I'm not supporting you anymore.
And thus, love becomes the currency.
There you go.
Yep.
And then
No, I love that. I love that. Go ahead.
that's the message in here. Live
Yes.
in love. Live as love, from love, for love. You can't go wrong. Every thought gets put up against love before it gets wrapped in emotion and is manifested. If we, and it's possible, it's easy to do, to make that your go-to maneuver. You know, all it requires is that you become self-aware of your thoughts. You don't just live on emotion. So something comes in your head before it's spoken or acted on. Where does it stack up against love? That's all that's required. It's all simple.
Yep, it is.
It's going to be.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, no,
Just hope
it's
I'm here to
crazy
see.
and weird. It's interesting because it's like we live in a world like technology based, um, but that's only the current world right now. Back when all the stuff from thousands of years ago was happening, there wasn't the technology. But it's interesting because with Diana's message, and then with like so many people that have similar messages, that can help. Like, because when you write a story, stories are written to help change and reshape the world. That's what they do, and they help change culture. They help change language, and so the more and more we have people like Diana or Paul or me or anybody else who are sharing their voice, sharing their stories, the more and more you can help shape a culture, hopefully for the positive. Like for
Yep.
instance, with my own work, I take the darkest parts of reality because like I've dealt with trauma upon trauma upon trauma, like and like have dealt with I've had my ass placed against the wall. I've been rammed. I've been, metaphorically, emotionally, and mentally broken multiple times over the last few years, and I've gotten right back up. I've gotten right back up. And if I was like if it was like April of 2019 and I was like desperately searching for some sort of message, which is what I was doing back then, and I ran into Diana's book back then, Diana would have picked my ass up and carried it forward. Like that's the power of this book that you've written. And
Oh,
like I was reading it last night and I was like going, the style's different and it's not as punchy, it's more elegant and danceable. It's kind of like expecting to listen to a heavy metal song and you get a jazz track. And like it's very like it's got its own beautiful little flavors and its own little elegance to it and its melody to it. And so I've talked about it in the past in spaces and other places where I feel like for me, stories have flavors, and it's kind of like tasting food, or it's kind of like listening to music or something like that, and whatnot, if you will. And so with mine is more not jarring per se, but punchy, and there's like this different elegance to like because it's kind of like listening to symphonic metal, or it's kind of like listening
mm,
to something of that nature where you have like your heavy dark parts and then you have your lighter danceable parts and you have your melody parts, and it's kind of like you're like listening to this guy scream into the microphone and like they're playing really heavy guitar notes, and then like in the same breath like a minute later suddenly you're hearing this really elegant beautiful angelic voice overlaid with a keyboard. That's kind of the way my stories technically are in some ways, and I've been told that it can go really dark really fast and go right back to the light. And so the point I'm making is that with all of us universally as a body, like writing community, and with Diana as being one of the leaders of the body, you can take and create a currency with love and
abs-
acceptance.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
love needs no rules. That's also a big thing. Everybody's trying to live by a set of rules by whatever holy book they go by. Love doesn't need rules. Love is the rule. You see, I
Yep.
mean, how are you going to do harm or do something that is discordant or disharmonious if you're acting in and out of love? And
Yep.
there was one thing
Yes.
I was going to say because I loved your analogy of the way that you write, and the first thing I thought of is Madame Butterfly with the backbeat and guitar riffs. It sounded fantastic. Got to read this.
Yep.
Love it, Madame Butterfly.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see your take on that stuff. I hope that when you do read Snake in the Ding, you're not too disturbed, or that when you read Storms of Blood or anything else, like you're not like, man, this guy. I'm hoping that things are good. Hey, Cornelia, I saw that.
It's funny because when you were giving your description, the first thing I thought of was a Neapolitan banana split. Well,
Neapolitan.
I want you to think
Interesting.
about this, okay? You got chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla ice cream. You got a banana, you got whipped cream, you got chocolate glaze, you got some lemon glaze, you got some cherry glaze. You got a cherry. You got some salty nuts. It's just a little bit of everything, and it's pure pleasure and pure joy. It's just incredible for the taste buds. I mean, if I were to compare love to a food, that would be it. It would be a Neapolitan banana split because it's got a little bit of everything to it.
That's fair. No, I'll accept it. I'll take it. Shadow Fang is a Neapolitan split, and Gospel of the Witch is its own banana split.
Lots of flavor. Lots of
Yes.
flavors.
Yeah, the characters were so fun to meet. I swear, I had such a fun time watching this movie in my head. It really was an amazing show, and I had so much fun just writing it down. Um, they're fascinating people, and if I could still sometimes think about the characters. One of my favorites is one of the cut ups. This woman has very little control over what flies in her head and out of her mouth. If it goes here, it's going to come out there, and that's all there is to it. And she's a little bit of what I hope is comedy to the reader, that they come across because, I like a little laughter as you go through a story. Why not? And everything. So yeah, there's some fun characters, some truly fun individuals.
Yes.
I love how you go from having giant monologues with different characters because there's passages where they say a lot in a small space, and then right after that you follow it up with a modern joke, or you follow it up with a very funny line, and there was one time where I was reading it, and I was reading it, and be all right, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, punchline, and I'm like, and I'm like, that was a twist. Yes. I liked how you did that.
Yes. I'm kind of doing that with my characters, especially in the Rainbow Prophecy, Blood Schism Book 1, with Iris and Donovan. There's a few other characters that once they start to merge in, there's characters that you get angry with them, but you love them because in the end they're still wanting to do the right thing. And the characters that you hate, they just have a personality you want to hate because they're just evil people, and there's no love in them. The love is gone. And that's kind of where I'm going with this book, is that you watch how love controls and dictates the right things, and that's the whole premise and all that on how love, if you're truly loving yourself and you put that love out there for others, that love is going to come back to you. Again, maybe not to the degree that you want it to or would like it to, but that's not what you're expecting or wanting. You love to do what's right, and that's what makes you who you are. And I've found quite a few people here that in the writing community, in the Stoic community, and even in the political community, that they're all about love and doing for others. And I've also run into a lot of people that they're not about that. They're about they want a voice, they want to be known, and they want to push an agenda, and they want people to think like them. And there's where the problem comes in. We're all individuals. We all think differently. That's what brings the beauty of what we can do together, is that we have different ways of thinking and we can bring a lot to the table. But when you start forcing everybody to think the same way, act the same way, and do the same things, you're stuck in a box because there's no growth. Okay, it's called groupthink. When everybody thinks the same way, acts the same way, and does the same thing, there's no growth. You have to have all of these diverse differences that bring in.
And there's no critical thinking.
Exactly. The critical thinking goes. Yes.
Yeah.
Individuality is extremely important. That's one of the things, actually, one of my characters, Vilas, in the story that I'm writing, When I say story, I mean like series. So there's like gonna be a lot of them. But like Vilas is he's a character who his big thing, because while some of the other characters are duty versus love, or some of them are like love versus death or whatnot, because like story is a love and death, and like Dance of Darkness and Light is kind of like a couple of themes I've been playing with. But Vilas is his responsibility versus freedom. It's, he's got a responsibility to his family, but if he adheres to his family's responsibilities, he can be at risk of losing his individuality in the process. Like he can lose the thing that makes him him, like his free agency, if he goes and tries to save his family. That's one of the things that's interesting about what you guys are talking about with like community and like group speak and like critical thought, is like there's that fine line between all of it before you risk losing what makes you you, for the sake of like a group or family or whatnot. And I find that that's very integral in our current life right now, because big tech is trying to control the world. And we live in a world where like you can't even mention certain things without somebody getting mad, and you can't even be fully bluntly honest without getting policed. And so probably every one of us in this space, in fact, are trying our hardest to like present a good version of ourselves that will, be good, to hopefully pass a good message to the audience, and everything. But in the sense, like, there's still parts of us that we'd be like, yeah, we're not showing that to the public. It just is like, and so like that's part of what I find it interesting, because when I'm writing like Vilas or writing one of those other characters, they're a bit more pervasive. They're a bit more, mouthy, and like, and they themselves would never be able to be an author or be somebody that has a media presence, because they're like, dude, I'm gonna piss everybody off because he's too bluntly honest or whatnot, or he doesn't want to lose that thing that makes him who he is, but in order to save his family, he's got to give it up. And if he doesn't give it up, then his family's broken. And that's one of the interesting concepts about his story, is that I've been in a situation where, for the good of the family, I had to do things that, felt like I was giving myself up, giving who I was up. And I've dealt with that before. And so when Diana told me stuff about her life in the past and how she had to deal with that, and then like I'm seeing other people deal with it, like it's a very interesting concept. It's fascinating. Diana spent like good 2 years taking care of her mom. Like, how long was it?
No,
17?
7 years.
Oh,
Both
7 years. That's
for 7 years, and then mom for, I guess, 3 years after that, after dad.
Yeah, very noble of you. And like the fact that you had to give up a giant chunk of, time that you could be using for anything else. Like, even though you're very humble about it and very graceful about it, it can't be underestimated. Like, that's a lot of time you spent. And I prize that. I prize the fact you did that. And like, that's part of what I'm talking about when it comes to free agency and it comes to individuality, because anybody else who's more selfish would have been like, I got things to do. I got a life to live. But you're just like, no, I'm going to lay this down. And I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make sure that you get what you need and, give you the best part of your life. And it was incredibly noble of you. It was beautiful.
Well, that's the kind of people they were. That's the kind of people my parents were. So, I just, I know that if situations were reversed, if I had some situation that made me some debilitating disease or something like that, that made me where I needed complete care, they would have given up any and everything at any time in their life to be able to do that. I know that that's what they were like. And so I had two wonderful people for parents. I was blessed by that. I recognize that blessing. So in my best possible capacity, I paid it back in kind as much as I could, because I frankly think that, that they deserved that. And, I was blessed. So that was the purpose of doing that, and I actually, the fact is I was able to finish this book in the time that I was taking care of them. Because there was downtime when they were either sleeping, or napping, or just watching television, and I could type away, so.
That is an ultimate blessing as somebody with 4 kids.
I want to comment on this because, when my wife took ill, a lot of people have said it's so nice of you to give up things and all that to take care of your wife. And the reality is I didn't give anything up. I gained more of myself because I got to give all of myself to her.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a loss of time, and that wasn't a giving up of anything. That was a gaining. I gained who I was.
And are you seeing like a vacant ness to it now? Like, is that like there's like a tug and pull of it, and so you gained more of who you were during that time frame, and then now you're seeing a difference. Like, I hope that the reason why I'm asking that is because uh, like I was checking on you the other day to make sure you're okay because you know
Her birthday.
birthday, that sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and wanting to make sure that you're okay because like my stepdad in the last because he was taking care of my mom for 12 years. She was on disability. She was on SSI is what they call it, and her spine was grinding into itself because she had really bad scoliosis. She had like I could go on and on about her medical stuff. Like her basically the gist of it is that Jose took care of her for 12 years plus, and in the last 3 to 4 years, since 2019, like it's not been easy on him. It's been rough. Like I've had to talk him down from being suicidal a couple times, and I've had to, become his pseudo therapist. Like there are nights where I'm not even on Twitter because I'm talking to him, or I'm not even, doing anything media wise because I'm tending to family stuff, and that's what Teapot does when he's not busy with media or doing writing or playing with these fictional world of characters. Like I'm trying to make sure that my kids are okay, trying to check on my brother, trying to check on my other brother who freaking gets suicidal every other blue moon. Take care of my stepdad who he's dealing with his vacancies since mom's been gone, and he's been having severe issues, and so I prize mental health severely because I'm around it a
Mhm.
lot and I live it. And my wife has her own stuff. I mean, she posted to Facebook and Twitter about how she's like, I'm taking a space. And I'm like, I didn't ask you to do that, right? Because I was talking to her and we were having our little thing. And she was just like, yeah, no, she's like, no, it's fine. I'm doing this for me. And I'm like, okay, well, it's a good thing you're doing something for yourself for a change. Because she'd always blame the kids or always blame something else. And we just got that endless struggle. And so that's why I was worried about you, Paul, because I'm like seeing mirrored images or seeing like little things that are poking their head. And when I heard talk to me the other one that day, I was just like, I'm going to check in on Paul and bug him.
Well, thank you. And here's the thing: when you're not throwing yourself into caring for somebody else, then you're occupying your time with other things. You're occupying your time with other things. Okay, you're amusing yourself. You're entertaining yourself. You're doing other things. When you're giving yourself to someone and you are there for them, you learn about yourself. When you're watching TV and you're watching a show, you're not learning about yourself. You're learning about other things. When you are taking care of somebody, you're learning about yourself. You're learning who you are, heart and soul, because the care you give that person tells you who you are. And when you keep going through and you keep doing these things and you're fighting and you're growing and you're learning and you're doing all this stuff, you realize that it's not about you. Nothing is about you. It's about everybody else. And once you come to the terms that nothing is about you, it's about everybody else, that's when you see life for what it really is and you see what the human value truly is. I'm not here for me anymore. I'm here for everyone else.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. Deeply. I appreciate you myself. Appreciate being able to host the show with you. Appreciate being able to bring awesome people like Diana up. Appreciate being able to, reach out to people and have, fun, make vagina teeth jokes and do other outlandish stuff that, that we wouldn't typically be able to do without technology. Which is funny because that's why I was like not trying to talk about tech in a sinister light, because without tech, I wouldn't know you guys. Without tech, I wouldn't know like a lot of people. And so I appreciate it for what it is. So I'm always looking at the positive, but I appreciate you.
I know that we're getting well past our hour now, but the one thing I wanted to say was that I felt for a period that I actually let myself get absorbed by Twitter Spaces. I was still taking care of my parents, don't get me wrong. I was seeing to their needs and all of that. But I was getting distracted from the connection that I had to spirit all my life for the most part. And then where I would wake up, of course, always think about my parents first, but I would be thinking about, I would feel that connection. And I let myself get distracted where when I woke up, I was like, I wonder whatever Twitter friend is doing, that particular day, or, I want to check Twitter. And I want to, see who's in the space, or what are they talking about, or whatever. I found that that was a distraction. And then I realized that, no, I actually just stopped thinking and focusing on my higher self, my best spirit. And once I got back to that, I realized that, you know, Twitter Spaces and Twitter and all social media is a wonderful tool for getting love out there. Just showing that little bit of concern that you actually sent someone a message that day that you thought maybe they'd have a rough time going through. Sometimes somebody just needs to know that there's a person somewhere in the world that cares. Well, how lucky are we that we can go onto any social media in this day and age and talk to people from any part of the world? I have friends in France, in Spain, all over the UK, and in Asia. I just, it's just a wonderful thing, that social media has actually given us an opportunity to do. The world truly is smaller than it used to be. What better time for a message to spread around the world of live and love? What
Yes.
better time? How much easier could it possibly be for us right now if it was part of our everyday vernacular?
Yep.
Imagine.
Mic drop. We love you, Diana.
Excellent show, everybody. Excellent show. I want everybody to remember to always, always be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way.
Yep. Have a week.